Hello, and welcome back to my humble show. I am your host for tonight and every other night, the Articulate Thinker. Hopefully, here to bring you art articles and articulation straight from Articulation Station, so be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. If you like it, put a ring on it. Sharing is caring, all that other good stuff, but enough is enough about me. As you can see, I'm looking a little rough around the edges because I am exhausted. Because it is 2 o'clock in the morning. It has been a long week for me overall, but it is the weekend and I'm going to do some speaking, although it is hard for me to speak when I am, in fact, exhausted. When I mentioned liking it and putting a ring on it, I reminded myself that last weekend I was out skateboarding. I fell on concrete rather hard. It was a rather hard fall. And I slapped the ground, the concrete, so hard that my wedding ring, split in half and went flying in 2 different directions. I know that's random, but that's a look into my life. Also, before I forget, 9/11 is just around the corner. September 11. Yeah. This is my daily reminder of that particular day in history. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Psalm 23. Don't forget, God loves you. He loves me too. I sometimes forget. I need to remind myself, especially after a long week. Long week, long day. I tried to record this show earlier in the day, but things just did not go my way. I'm going to give it another go, though. We'll see how far I get. Sit tight. Buckle up, Buttercup, because I have some things to talk about. Actually, I'm going to be talking about Nancy Pelosi, primarily. Here is my overall perspective on Nancy Pelosi, who announced earlier in the day, which was yesterday at this point, that she is going to be running for re-election yet again as a member of Congress, though not as the Speaker of the House anymore. She lost that seat, but she will not give up her seat of authority, her seat of power. So I say, Nancy Pelosi is drunk on ice cream and power again. And when I say again, I suppose she always was. Or at least since she entered the political arena. Right? She doesn't leave. And who does? Why would they? Why should they? When they have so much power and ice cream. Power to the people with the most ice cream. I'm referring, of course, to that clip of her from during the prime of the pandemic. I believe she was being interviewed virtually by Trevor Noah or someone. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. She was taking him on a tour of her house, her mansion, and showing off her massive collection of ice cream. The most expensive ice cream life has to offer. I'm sure she shares with Joe Biden, since he is also a fan of ice cream and also of Nancy Pelosi. They are birds of a feather and they flock together. I believe my last show from a few days ago, my only show from the past week, that's how my week went, was about Mitch McConnell, who recently fell, and even more recently, had a brain freeze in public, a public brain freeze. Not because of ice cream either, at least not that I'm aware of. And even more recently, he of course had yet another brain freeze. we have since been led to believe that he's going to be just fine, and he can keep representing his constituents, just as Nancy Pelosi is determined to do. But here you go. Here is her announcement, straight from the Team Pelosi account on X. Now more than ever, our city needs us to advance San Francisco values and further our recovery. Our country needs America to show the world that our flag is still there, with liberty and justice for all. That is why I am running for re-election and respectfully ask for your vote. Signed, Nancy. All right, so this post has been seen by nearly 2 million people. I am one of them. And now so are you. They're not directly. You're welcome. Starting at the top, she says, now more than ever, our city needs us. And when she says us, she means her. The city needs her. But does it? I don't think so. The city needs her to go away and to become extinct like the dinosaur she is. And I'm not wishing death upon her. I'm not. Whether it's on her or on Mitch McConnell. Red or blue. I don't give a who. I mean, I do, but that's not my point here. They've done more harm than good at this point. And the fact that they're talking about how they are needed to further the recovery just suggests that after all this time of them being around, they haven't yet recovered anything. And that's why it still needs to be recovered. I was listening to 2020 debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden earlier today. I was just re-listening while I was working. And of course, one of the arguments that was made by Joe Biden was, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, if you vote for me. And of course, Donald Trump would say to that, you were in the White House for 8 years and you didn't do any of that. Why? Why should we believe that you're going to do it now? You know, I think there's some middle ground to be found there. I think either way you spin that, it's a talking point, whether from Joe Biden's perspective or Donald Trump's perspective. When you're running against each other, you got to latch on to whatever argument looks good to you, whatever argument sounds good to you, or at least to whoever they're pandering to in the spur of the moment. But that's exactly what Nancy Pelosi is doing here. But who exactly is she speaking to? Who supports her? Are you her constituent? I'm not. I live in Washington. But if I lived there in California, in San Francisco, more specifically, I wouldn't feel represented by her. She's just an elite establishment politician. As some would say, she's deep state. I would just say that she is cheap state. Or, I don't know, a deep stain. It's all going to be in vain, whatever it is. I'm just not sure what she is doing for her constituents, for her city. Oh, what a pity it is. But she refers to this recovery, the furthering of the recovery, which needs to be recovered more than ever, partly because of politicians just like her. Take a walk down the streets of San Francisco and you'll know what I'm talking about. But I guess she doesn't take a walk down the streets of San Francisco, at least not without her chauffeur. She says, our country needs America to show the world that our flag is still there. And I agree with that much. As you can see, the flag is still there. She says, with liberty and justice for all, or at least most, depending on whether or not they agree with you and your policies. She says, that is why I am running for re-election. Well, thank you for not referring to the children for once. She generally says, "For the children, for the children." Which also brings to mind a clip of her elbowing a little girl during a photo shoot. She's like, "Don't stand so close to me." She didn't say it, but she made it happen. She threw them bows. She says here, respectfully ask for your vote. She respectfully asks for your vote. Well, at least she respects you. Scam likely. So yeah, moving on to this. This is a video, an edit from my Articulate Thinker News Clips channel of her announcement from last time. Title of this video is Nancy Pelosi announces she's running for re-election and throwing punches for the children. Like I said, she loves to pander by referencing the children. You'll see what I mean. You'll hear what I mean. Joe Biden is also on the scene here. I threw him in the mix. Let me click this, though. Click around and find out.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the
fog of the controversy.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. But hey, stop yelling fire in a crowded theater. How dare you? Sorry about the low audio here. I can't turn it up any louder.
Hello, it's Nancy.
Imagine.
When people ask me what are the 3 most important issues facing the Congress, I always say the same thing. Our children, our children, our children.
Can you imagine looking at your child?
That is my why I am in Congress, for the children.
Really?
It strips you of your dignity, damn it.
This is my story, and this is my song. As you hear me say, when you're in the arena, you have to be able to take a punch or throw a punch for the children.
It's outrageous.
And that is why I am running for re-election to Congress and respectfully seek your support. I would be greatly honored by it and grateful for it. Thank you so much.
Well, they got one thing right. It is outrageous. It's not courageous. It's outrageous. But the stage is hers. Forevermore, apparently. Now, she is a dinosaur. They all are. All these powerful politicians, these power-hungry politicians who are more worried about their legacy than about their constituency, although they use their constituents to maintain their legacy. Why else would an 80-plus-year-old want to continue in the realm of politics at this point? Whether it's her, Mitch McConnell, Dianne Feinstein, who is a dinosaur among dinosaurs. She is extra sore of a dinosaur. Even John Fetterman. Why would he want to be in the position that he is in? Speaking of John Fetterman, he has been endorsing Joe Biden as of late. He has said some very interesting things. I was going to say controversial, but just the typical talking points. Although for him it is I don't even want to call it talking, because he can barely do that. I'm only mocking the age and speech of these individuals because they've put themselves in the positions that they're in. And they now need to what did I say? Get lost. Check out my Articulate Thinker News Clips channel if you want to see more edits just like that one. I have more than 20 edits of Nancy Pelosi up on that channel. What else could I make a reference to? Did I mention her during the prime of the pandemic? Showing off her fridge full of ice cream. Well, her freezer full of ice cream. Only the most expensive kinds. And her mansion in San Francisco. I believe that was in a virtual interview with Trevor Noah, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. What about when she had a salon opened up just for her after salons had been shut down in her state, thanks in part to her? Yeah, she had it opened up just so she could go in there and style her hair, get her do done. And she got caught on camera, got caught red-haired, got caught with her hand in the cookie jar. She came out and blamed the salon owner for setting her up. Yeah, good old days. Similar to Gavin Newsom and the French Lingerie when all restaurants were shut down. In California. Californication. They're always fornicating with power. But yes, I said Nancy Pelosi is drunk on ice cream and power again. Changed my mind. So here is an announcement from Fox News. 83-year-old ghoul Nancy Pelosi will run for re-election.
Speaking of politics, Fox News alert now. California Congresswoman and former House Speaker twice, Nancy Pelosi, has just announced she is running for re-election in 2024. She posted on X, formerly known as Twitter. Here it is. Now more than ever, our city needs us to advance San Francisco values and further our recovery. Our country needs America to show the world that our flag is still there with liberty and justice for all, she says in all caps, or at least somebody on our team probably wrote this. That is why I am running for re-election and respectfully ask for your vote, Nancy.
I feel like her value is in devaluing values. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. Nancy Pelosi wants to turn Congress into a nursing home, apparently. Nursing home Nancy. Not just nutty Nancy, but nursing home Nancy. That's what I say. And Travis says, breaking, Nancy Pelosi has announced she will be running for Congress again in 24 when she's 84 years old. She feels she's ready to lead the Democrats one more time. Recently, she also did an interview and defended Dianne Feinstein, who is 90. She said calls for Feinstein to resign were gendered, and people wouldn't do the same for a man. Really? I mean, Mitch McConnell should resign. A lot of people have been saying that, including Republicans, just like me. So what's that all about? I think the reason why people have said that about Dianne Feinstein, more so than anyone else, is because, look at her. No offense to her, she is very decrepit, as the dinosaur among dinosaurs. And I say she needs to resign. She needs to retire and rest and relax. She needs some R&R. She needs to enjoy what time she has left in her life, because there are things that are more important than politics. And she's not even able to efficiently politic at this point. Not that she ever was, but you know what I mean. Even if you are in the same party as her, you can't be okay with this. I've talked about the prospect, the possibility, the necessity for either cognitive testing, or term limits, or age restrictions, all the above. You tell me. And we can disagree on the technicalities, but we can't pretend that this is a necessary normality. It's just not. It shouldn't be. Also a clip that has gone around of her losing her mind, essentially, while in a hearing, while attempting to vote on something. She completely loses her mind and begins to talk in a way that isn't required in the spur of the moment. And she has to be reminded by people around her that all she needs to do is say, I. So she eventually says aye. But not after... Well, not before making a fool of herself. But I guess they're fine with that. Nancy Pelosi, 83, announces she wants 2 more years in Congress to help San Francisco's recovery. Recovery from what? Your policies? Democrat cities look like a bomb went off in a war zone. I can't understand how anyone would vote for this again. This is from Americat. Cat Murphy. Let me zoom out. Alright, so as you can see, people sleeping on the streets of San Fran has gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. At least there's a book there for someone to read. Yeah, the drugs. The despair. Very rampant there. So that's what Nancy Pelosi wants to stick around to not fix. Nancy Pelosi is running for re-election and pledging to advance San Francisco's values. What values? This from Caroline Leavitt. And leave it to Caroline. I can't show you the full context of this image. I'll scroll down this far. But the reason why I will not scroll down any farther is because there are 2 men in this photo here. My mouse is over it. I know you're probably watching on a phone screen if you're actually watching. Or maybe you're just listening. And you may not be able to see what I'm talking about anyway. But YouTube will see. These 2 men here are butt naked. Walking around letting it all hang out. So, yeah. Anyways, Caroline Leavitt said, I took these photos while driving through San Fran last week. The entire city is an abomination. Homeless, drug-addicted Americans living in squalor on the streets, trash littering the sidewalks, naked men walking around with their junk hanging out in broad daylight. I spoke to a cop who said he feels hopeless. Well, helpless. Same difference. He witnesses crimes daily but cannot pursue the criminals due to their liberal laws. He warned me not to get out of my car and leave my stuff inside, for it would surely be robbed. It does not have to be this way. With real leadership, we can make America's once great cities the envy of the world again. President Trump is a businessman who built massive real estate developments in months. He can absolutely I don't want to make this Biden versus Trump. I'm not even going to read the rest of this. This links to Donald Trump's website. I mean, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about in the comments below. Let me know. But I just don't want to. I don't want to make this about who you're voting for in the presidential election. I'm trying to keep this focused on Congress. I get it. It's just that Donald Trump has been president too. And ultimately, we weren't left in a great spot. COVID came along and was very counterproductive for Donald Trump, to say the least. But yeah, all of these people, they're old. They're old, including Donald Trump. I'm not saying I'm for or against him. You can watch my other content to figure out. Yeah. Moving on. San Francisco is a ghetto. Darren Stollop braves the streets for this footage. Posted by Citizen Free Press.
We got a couple bodies passed out here.
Now, obviously, I'm not claiming that this is what every street looks like, but it is running rampant. Well, these people aren't capable of running. They stand around sit around, lay around, sometimes permanently. Overdoses. You name it. Every city, at least blue cities, have a section like this. It's not just Nancy Pelosi. Gavin Newsom is the governor of the state. And some people on the left think that he would make a great president. I mean, better than the current resident, Joe Biden? I don't know if I'd go that far. I really don't. Gavin Newsom has a known history of being a Newsom, a nuisance as well. And he might have everyone dwelling in this sort of an environment if he becomes president. He's not exactly recovering anything either, is he? And there's a chance that he could take the place of Joe Biden. He hasn't made the announcement yet, speaking of announcements, but I'm just saying it could happen at some point. Would you want the leader of California to be the leader of the country? I wouldn't. Some people actually think he's doing a great job. This from DC Drano. San Francisco is an absolute disaster. Stores closing, empty offices, carjackings, homelessness, and open-air drug markets. Yet Dems gleefully clap like trained seals, hearing that Nancy Pelosi will run for office again. She'll be almost 87 by the time her next term ends. Insane. Nancy Pelosi, who? Do I hear an owl? Says she will run for another term at 83 years of age. Yeah. After nearly 40 years in power. And ice cream. She screams for ice cream. Almost makes me want to boycott ice cream. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. They should boycott her, though. Flashback. Nancy Pelosi says Biden is younger than I am. So I don't know what the problem is. Are you not entertained?
He's absolutely a magnificent leader. He is younger than I am, so I don't know what the so I don't know what the problem is, but so I don't know what the problem is, but but in any event, I hope that he will soon make some announcement. Yeah. He's absolutely a magnificent leader.
Of course she's going to say that about him. She calls Joe Biden a magnificent leader. Yeah. He can't even lead. He can't even lead across a stage. Can't even find his way across a stage. How's he leading the country? How's he magnificent at it? That's not my sense. It's not my 2 cents. Not my common sense. That's what she says. And he says that she is the greatest Speaker of the House the country has ever known. So I guess they're just swapping spit at this point.
He is younger than I am, so I don't know what the...
That's like a slap in the face laugh. That's the laugh of someone who knows that they can get away with murder. I'm not accusing her of that. It's a figure of speech. But it's the getting away with murder laugh, where you say something down the barrel of your nose to your constituents, and then you just laugh, knowing, ha ha ha. It's super duper telling, but at the same time, you can get away with saying it. It's like when the quiet part has become so loud that you can say the quiet part out loud and be proud of it. Yeah. Have some other random clips pulled up. Not necessarily connected to age. Nancy Pelosi smears Americans who voted for President Trump. They're people we would probably never get. Notice the lingo. Notice the language. It's all about pandering.
It's interesting to see how there's a certain element of the population who will just go for him. They're people we would probably never get. They don't share our values in terms of respect for the dignity and worth of every person and the rest. It's interesting to see how there's a certain element of the population who will just go for him. They're people we would probably never get.
I don't know if it's quite on the level of basket of deplorables comments. You know, the comments of Hillary Clinton from a few years back. But still, she's essentially making the same point, and that's fine. It's a political point. Everyone has their talking points on both sides. On both sides, they say that sort of thing. Sometimes I do too. You know, probably never get this people. Probably never get that people. Even if you're a people person. But it's all about pandering. Pandering for power. Pandering for votes. It's one of her favorite things to say. You have to vote, vote, vote. Whether it's on a drag show. She has gone on drag shows and said, the most important thing is that we get out and vote. You have to vote. They love to say that. Reminds me of Kamala Harris. She says the same thing a lot. And she's also from that area, California. She loves to tell people to vote. We've got to get as many votes as possible. And then she'll laugh afterwards. Of course, she laughs after everything. She's a laugh factory. Kamala Harris, that is. Can we all just remember what Nancy Pelosi tweeted when protesters swarmed the Capitol building and interrupted the hearings for Judge Kavanaugh? She and D.C. only approve of her type of protesters. And here's a screenshot from 2018. We welcome the presence of these activists, and we strongly urge the Capitol Police to allow them to continue to organize and participate in our democracy. Again, not to make this a red versus blue issue necessarily, but obviously, not too long ago she was saying, hey, it's fine if people are protesting or even rioting at the Capitol. It happened then, during the Kavanaugh trials. All the accusations they were lobbing at him, which were enough to incite a riot. They didn't consider it incitement. They just considered it excitement. And they were fine with it. She was fine with it. RNC convention. Donald Trump had given a speech at the White House. This was before the 2020 election. There was rioting in the streets. There were members of Congress and public figures like Dan Bongino who were being attacked in the streets. They were being followed, harassed, threatened by BLM protesters, by Antifa protesters / rioters. She didn't have anything to say about that. None of her people did. Or what about when Donald Trump was forced into the bunker because there was rioting all around the White House? Yeah, this was during the George Floyd mostly peaceful protests. Mostly peaceful. Just mostly peaceful. They tried to burn down the church across from the White House. There were fires. All through arson. The throwing of bricks. Molotov cocktails thrown. Cops punched. A lot of stuff was happening. I mean, that's how bad it was. It was so bad that Donald Trump had to be taken by Secret Service into the bunker of the White House. Then he was called a coward until he came out and held a Bible in front of that church, which had almost been burnt down. Of course, people were more mad. Democrats were more mad that he held a Bible up in front of a church than that, arsonists had attempted to burn it down. They weren't called insurrectionists, none of them. They were literally trying to break into the White House that night before. They were. And then when the streets were cleared by the cops, these same people were saying it was all a big abuse of power. But at the Capitol, after failing to bring in extra cops to keep people from breaking into the Capitol on January 6th in the first place. Well, it happened. And then she was on the scene. Making a scene of it, that's for sure. Recording a little bit of a documentary of her own. I'm reminded of that. She had people following her around during January 6th riot. She was recording it. Recording the raw emotion. She was singing a different tune then than she was, well, then. And all those other occasions where the attacks, the rioting was coming from the left rather than from the right. Whatever fits your narrative, though, Nancy. Narrative-driven Nancy. Nursing home Nancy. Nutty Nancy. This from Not the Bee. 83-year-old Nancy Pelosi is running for re-election again to advance San Francisco values. I guess she saw the latest freeze up from Mitch McConnell and thought, if they keep him in office, they'll keep anyone in. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, 83, announced on X, formerly Twitter, that she would be seeking re-election in 2024. Yeah, both of them failed to pass the IQ test. Well, they might pass an IQ test. She's a smart woman. I'm not saying she's not. But even if she does run, why would anyone vote for her? Oh, wait. We're talking about California. People have been effectively pandered to. And I don't think such a blue state is flipping to red anytime soon, so she's going to be on the scene for a little while longer. San Francisco values. Okay. Interesting stuff. Not even sure what that's all about. I don't want to click around and find out. Not here, not now. I don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Nancy Pelosi has been in power for 4 decades. She was elected to the U.S. House in a special election in 1987, before many of you were even born. Before I was born, I was born in 93. Here she is at 20 years old at JFK's inauguration, because that's how long she's been a thing in D.C. And this was her mental state 3 years ago. Pelosi glitches out, randomly says, "Good morning, Sunday morning," in the middle of an interview. So whenever I think I'm losing my mind, glitching out, spacing out, spazzing out, I just have to remind myself, could be worse. I could be Nancy Pelosi.
And you can do so as soon as possible. 10 states, as I said, on Friday started their early voting the day that we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a
George Snuffleupagus there is as confused as she is at what had just happened. Yeah, so that's the end of that article. I remember that clip. Hadn't seen it in a while. So thanks to Not the Bee. Not the Babylon Bee, of course, for reminding me of that. And this from Tyler Durden of Zero Hedge. Let me see how lengthy this article is. I'm running out of energy. Yeah, not much to this either. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi who is 83 years old, announced on Friday that she'll run for re-election to another term in Congress as Democrats attempt to win back the majority in 2024. Pelosi made the announcement while speaking to labor allies in the San Francisco area district she's represented for more than 35 years. Now more than ever, our city needs us to advance San Francisco values and further our recovery. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read the rest of her announcement again. It has been seen and heard enough times already. Pelosi was first elected to Congress in 1987, becoming the first female speaker in 2007. Of course, the speaker is once again a man, Kevin McCarthy. Like him or leave him, well, he's better than she is. Last November, Pelosi vowed not to seek re-election as speaker. As noted last year by Insider, America's Congress is the oldest in its history, beginning in the early 1990s. In the 1980s, only about 5% of Congress was over 70. Now it's nearly 25%, because those people in positions of power like to hold on to the power, and they do that. They stick around and find out. So as you can see, Congress got old. One of my previous shows about Mitch McConnell, I pulled up some information about the average age of current members of the House and the Senate, Congress overall. Of course, she is near the top of the list, but she is not at the top of the list. There are others who are older than her. Some of them are more fit than her. Some of them are less fit than her. I guess my problem isn't so much that she's unfit. I mean, you might find an awkward good morning clip here and there. But with her, she's doing better cognitively than someone like Joe Biden, even. Definitely than someone like Dianne Feinstein. But I'm just saying, at that age, you got to question the motive. And I do think that changes should be made in regards to the rules, term limits, age limits, testing. You tell me. Some headlines. I'm not going to read any of these articles. I just... Yeah. I got to move on. Pelosi says she'll run for re-election in 2024 as Democrats try to win back House majority. That from AP News. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she will run for re-election to House in 2024. That from Washington Post. Nancy Pelosi to run for re-election for her U.S. House seat next year. That from CNN. Nancy Pelosi, 83, will run for her seat in Congress again in 2024. That from Fox News. We also have New York Times here. Defying predictions. Pelosi says she will seek re-election in 2024. Also, NBC News, The Hill, all just repeating each other. I'm guessing all these articles are repetitious in large part. Last headline for you. John Fetterman dares Republicans to impeach Biden. You just got to call their BS. Go ahead, do it. I dare you. Fetterman reportedly told a small group of journalists. So he's daring Republicans to impeach Biden. A little cocky, don't you think? For a man who speaks like a third grader. Actually, I think a third grader could outspeak him. But whether or not he's using speak and spell, I wish him well. I wish all of these people well. I do. It's just that I wish our country well, first and foremost. And I don't think these people are doing the most for it. For America. America. There you have it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If I'm missing anything, if I've missed anything, yeah, be happy to hear from you. Could use any word of encouragement as well, because I've been having a tough time. But I don't want to talk about me. So, see you later. Peace.